turn that heat on, nigga. Let's go. These bitches be boring, corny. Pop out new bag, new jury. Throwing that solo on my story. I make a photographer horny. I wake up to new hoes on my dick. I be cute, so I post for a pic. Know they watching, I blow him a kiss. I be acting like hoes don't exist. Got a black truck that a rap nigga cop me. I pop out, make a hoe get inside it. I pop shit till a nigga gotta block me. And my toes white like Matthew McConaughey. And start to the throat, she throwing. Ass through ass, and so I keep throwing. Skirt riding up so the panties keep showing. Should I take off on these hoes? Keep going. H-E-A-B-Y heavy. I'm not toxic, I'm deadly. Hoes look a mess and be messy. I pop shit and pop ass on jet ski. Hickory dock. They take my pic to the dock. Like, give me the shit that she got. Coming out lumpy. Hoes be chippity chop. I hop out the lemon and chop in the cully. Texting your man while I lay on my tummy. Ass and titties come out when it's sunny. Guess I'm a teacher since she wanna sub me. She did what, had no idea. Thought she was on the shelf like Kia. Put a stroke like that when I see her. Bitch, please, don't nobody wanna pay her. She looking asshole, weak looking asshole. Great value, me looking asshole. Girl, these bitches be pussy. Delete every tweet looking asshole.
He don't wanna be saved, don't save her. That is not my nigga, don't claim her. About 20 missed calls, he fake. White boy wasted, Channing Tatum.
He don't wanna be kept, don't keep. He don't want the paper, then bitch, don't keep. Ho, I don't get left, I'ma leave. Hoes love me like Justin B. In love with Glow. Never got the cookie, but got my name tatted. Killer work, don't know who he killed. I heard that main daddy. Never full, when it's time to eat, I be his main platter. NYC, New York Fashion Week, Tommy Hill, Jimmy. Tell these hoes to stay dangerous, cause now one nut ain't nigga safe. My nigga say he faithful, I still got a free hoe just in case. I can't lie, I used to simp so hard, but them my old ways. 300, 65 days in the year, come play with me on none of them days. Fucking ass, freaking niggas, don't even wear no condom. Don't know how to treat a lady, the fuck? I oughta smack your mom. Pussy wet, good ass neck, that's me. So I talk how I want. Save a nigga who bitch, do I look like fucking Superwoman?
He don't wanna be saved, don't save her. That is not my nigga, don't claim her. About 20 missed calls, he faded. White boy wasted, Channing Tatum.
He don't wanna be kept, don't keep. He don't want the paper, then bitch, don't keep. Ho, I don't get left, I'm
real
keep.
girl shit.
Love me like Justin
I'm
B.
the B-A-D-D-E-S-T. Same hoes hate me, used to wanna be besties. You can get your wig turned like Effie. I don't need insurance cause a bitch can't break me. Ready, when I'm coming like Freddy, I'm mother. Hanging on my check is your daddy. Got that teeth, bitch catch it. You look like a discount me on X. I'm the female titan, I'm stepping on bitches. I'm showing my titties, I tore up the city. A P.I.M.P. I be hoeing these niggas. He run back to me cause you born a nigga. Fuck is a layover, I ain't waiting. I get the bag, then I change destination. These niggas be crazy, I don't blame them. I'm a dog too, I don't wanna change him. He don't wanna be saved, don't save him. That is not my nigga, don't claim him. About 20 missed calls, he faded. White boy wasted, Channing Tatum. I don't wanna be saved, don't save me. You for everybody, nigga, don't claim me. Hate a nigga tryna tell me what to do. You ain't my daddy, I'm not your baby. He don't wanna be saved, don't save him. That is not my nigga, don't claim him. About 20 missed calls, he faded. White boy wasted, Channing Tatum.
He don't wanna be kept, don't keep. He don't want the paper, then bitch, don't keep. Ho, I don't get left, I'ma leave. Hoes love me like Justin Bieber. Go me, go me, go me, go me, go me, go me, go me.
Get him glow, 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 get him glow.
Go see, go who, go see, go who, go see, go who. Get him see, go who, get him see, go who. Go me, go me, go me.
What's good with it? What's good with it? Yeah, I ain't never caught a plane in my life, but I'm finna get on a plane and go over there and get my baby Chris Brown. I won't catch a plane to Tampa. I won't catch a plane in Miami. Tomorrow I'm going to the UK. I'm knocking on the doors, baby. They're gonna open them doors with them big old hats, them mounties, and they're gonna let me in. And that's wait a minute. That's what they have over there. What they have over there? That ain't what they have over there. Anyway, hey, the people on, I gotta tell y'all over there on Twitter, because I tell y'all. Y'all, I don't care how hard I try. It's always gonna be a dusty, a dummy. Oh, child. Hold on. Okay. Guess what? Start with day one with the transcripts. Oh Lord, I don't know how I'm gonna get this done. But might as well, right? But before we do that, I'm gonna have to rewind for a minute, right? I'm gonna have to go back in time a little bit, because we got old dumbass Dusty. Hopefully, that dummy will join and say something else dumb so I can clown his or her ass. Okay, that's what I do, right? But give me a minute, y'all. Now, please keep in mind that we are still under disclaimer number two. Okay? Still under disclaimer number two. So that means that it will come with life shame and whatever the hell else, right? Because when you come and call me names, that opens up the floor for me to call you names. When you think that you're going to treat me some kind of way or any kind of way, that opens up the floor for me to do the same to you. I don't understand why nobody gets that or whatever. I think that it has something to do with learning, comprehension, understanding, right? And if you don't understand K through 12 curriculum, then you probably won't understand what you do to me, I can do it to you. It doesn't have no time limit, okay? I don't suggest going on and on and on and on and on, right? Like a damn cuckoo person. But if you do something to me in 2020, I got to back 2027 to do something back to you. That's just how I do it. I be busy. I don't have time to be worrying about getting your ass back and all of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying life be life. You ain't that important. But when I sit down and I have a minute, I'll get you. Ain't no problem. I'll get you. Don't try me. I don't have time for that, right? So once again, that K through 12, that's a crucial time. That is the time that your mama and daddy should have made sure that you went to school. Now, let me put this disclaimer in here, right? Okay. All right, let me put this disclaimer on up there. Okay. Now, you got that? If we are not beefing, then don't apply anything I say to you because I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking to the people that I'm talking to, that I'm talking about. Those are the ones that interrupt my life with their opinion. Okay? And when I tell you, I can tell when one is just really slow. Really slow or really fucking old or really high. One of the two, right? One of the two. Hold on. See how life be life? Hold on. Let's close. This is foundation. This is. Hold on. Mm, okay. Now, make sure that ain't go to everybody. All right. Good, good, good. Okay. So, um, that's that, right? I'm not the type of person. I don't go bother nobody that ain't bothering me. And even sometimes if you bother me, I just ignore you or I say I'll catch you at a later time, right? Or I respond. Okay? So sometimes it may seem like I'm talking about everybody. I'm not. I'm just talking to the people that I'm talking about. I'm not crazy. I don't just go fucking with people that ain't fucking with me. Okay? So let me read to you this exchange that I got from old Dusty. And I can tell that they dusty as hell, child. And I'm tired of, we have to be segregated. I don't want to participate. Meaning, keep your ass off my page. You don't have a regular high school diploma, you know, that, you graduated on time. Like, I ain't talking about nobody that graduated when they was 20. If you was in the slow classes and all that extra shit, like, go ahead on. I don't have time. If you one of them boogers from the street, you still live in the hood and all that, I ain't got time for that. I don't mean no harm. I don't have time for that. Because here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with living in the hood, living this with this, there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't bother people, whatever. But I feel that people who are drawn to this sector, who live in the hood, y'all are some hood boogers. Okay? I don't want to deal with that. You can go on. There are other channels that is established and set up for your type. Okay, people that can understand, comprehend, learn, read. It's channels for that. We use more than three syllable words over here sometimes. Sometimes shit can get deep in higher learning. This ain't where you want to be. Where you got the birds flying outside your head and inside, and this ain't where you want to be. It can get brutal for you. So that's what I'm saying. Stay on from over him because it's not set up for you. It's not set up for you. Go do something else. But a long time ago, when people were saying that they were only going to do the defense side and all of that, we said a long time ago that is going to come back and bite you in the butt. that is going to do you a disservice, because the law, the legal system, that proceeding that you go through when you get jammed up has two sides. And then if you go through a trial, then it's three, because there's a jury that's going to decide whether or not you are innocent or guilty. Then it's going to be their side. It's going to be the prosecutor's side, it's going to be the defense side, and it's going to be the trial of fact, which is the jury. It's going to be their side. Because they're making a determination whether you're innocent or guilty. Right? Check this out right here. I was minding my own business. I said, I think that Cassie's husband may be a little different. And I think that they connect on that difference. That doesn't mean that I think she wasn't violated. I don't know. That don't even go together. I don't know why I said that. Hold on. I was doing some shorthand right there. I don't know why I even have that in there. Let me take that out. Okay. Then I said, just to recap, I said my analysis of the R. Kelly case and the Diddy case will be different, because Diddy's case does not contain exposure to an STD and alleged minors. I ain't even used the word alleged. But no, not dumbass. Not dumbass down here. She ain't see that. Or him or her ain't see that, because they're slow. You lack comprehension. That is something that is reinforced in you in those grades usually between 8 through 12. Most of the time, that's when people drop out. That's why it's a problem with you guys. And if you started out in the slow learning department, the slow learning, SLD class, that's what we used to call them, well, your learning comprehension probably never did, do what it's supposed to do. And you probably comprehending probably at a 5th or 6th grade level. This is not where you want to be. I don't care about numbers. I don't like nobody getting on my goddamn nerves. I don't like nobody interfering with my day. Peeping in on my goddamn life. I don't want to see your scream name in my life. I really don't. I don't want to be bothered with you. 9 out of 10 times I see something, I'm going to address it. I don't want to be bothered with you, because you're slow. I don't give a damn who comes over here, right? But when you talking about getting into the thick of things and whatever, and you trying to, learn whatever, if you can't carry a good whatever, just don't say nothing. If you don't have a command of the text we're talking about, the curriculum, whatever you want to clarify as, then just don't say nothing. Unless you got a question. But let me change that. I don't mean like don't say nothing. I mean like don't attack someone when you probably shouldn't even be over here. You can't attack what we're talking about because you are slow. There's something else going on. I don't have time for that. I'm not that type of teacher. I got family members that deal with SLD. They love that. They love the juvenile. They love all them type of people. That's not me. I'm not even certified to teach in K through 12. I purposely did not get those type of certifications because I do not want to be bothered by someone that is not up with it. Because I can't talk to you. Somebody else had to talk to you because I don't have time for that. One thing about me, you know, two things. Respect is number one. Two, not getting on my nerves is number one. That is how you last around me. I am not hard up for no people. And I would rather two people that can understand what the hell it is I'm talking about and they can talk back to me in a way that we can have a conversation, a dialogue, a discussion that is parallel to one another, that's even, that mirrors one another, is that is congruent, whatever you want to say. Instead of me, once again, having to go through the ABCs. This is ABC shit. This is not what I do. Don't come say shit in the way that it's attacking. And you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You finna get exposed. Somebody said, and I'm gonna tell you, credit card man said it's two things. You either gonna get exposure or you're gonna get exposed. Cause he operating that role in that world, you know, he's the man. Uh-huh. Okay, and the conversations that people like that have is more about serving, bettering you, me, that type of stuff, right? They don't have conversations about others and how to do all this extra shit. No, they don't have that. They give advice or they listen to advice. And I'm not on the screen right now with you guys are, so I'm back over here with the dusty comments, right? Don't come bothering people, okay? I don't go looking for nobody to leave no stupid ass comment on to attack them and stuff like that, right? I don't do that. Let me tell you what I said. I said, just to recap, I said my analysis of the R. Kelly case and the Diddy case will be different because Diddy's case does not contain exposure to an STD and alleged minors. He has more because he has more of a legal defense. The defense can talk more about Cassie's role and the role of others. I know y'all are going to say that it wasn't an STD or minors. Well, take that up with the government, the girls' mothers, and their gynecologists. That's what I said. I've said that beforehand because I'm very good at predicting what someone is going to do. I told you that. I've demonstrated that. Don't get mad at me. Right? Here comes this Dustin. CLIMA Drayton 2959. All caps. You sound very slow. No comma, no period. Herpes was never proven, and New York judge and Chicago judge said there were no minors. So STFU with the BS. Huh? Okay. So I said, you are slow. It was confirmed that he had herpes along with everyone around him. He was accused of exposing people to herpes. The judge never said that there weren't any minors in the case, stupid. If you are right, show me in black and white. Then whoever this idiot says, no, the fuck it wasn't. Go and read the defense transcripts. The defense transcripts. I almost just dropped to the floor. What is the defense transcripts? I'm not running with y'all. But please somebody tell me, what is the defense transcripts? This is why, and y'all know I ain't on no sides. And I mean, I at this point, I really can't say which side I like the best. But I can say this. At the time when Progress 2 times asked me the question, he said, which side gives you more trouble? The Kells side or the anti-Kells side? And I told him the anti-Kells side, right? So, but I don't give a fuck, right? I really don't care. Read the defense transcripts. And this is a person that's calling me slow. Huh? Well, do you have the defense transcripts? Do you have them? Please let me know where you can find them. Because I have all the transcripts. Even the transcripts from the hearings that went on before the trial. Please let me know where you can find a set of defense transcript for any case. I would like to know. Stupid. There's no such thing as a defense transcript. There are transcripts that is going to record and report everything on the record that happened in that courtroom, on that hearing, whatever was transcribed. What the hell are you talking about? So no, the fuck it wasn't. Go and read the defense transcripts. Oh, if you can read and comprehend, I follow the whole case in both kangaroo courts. So have a blessed day, miss. Lord have mercy, Jesus. I can't. I can't. If I can read. Well, apparently you can't read. You can't understand. You can't comprehend. You probably think both of those the same thing. You can't do shit. And then I heard another idiot say, the judge said it wasn't no minors. That is not what that judge said. The judge said something to the effect of calling them girls, referring to them girls as of that day, because I think it was Nicole was doing that. And one, if you get up and refer to them as girls or whatever, I don't know which side was doing it, to be honest. I don't know which one was doing it. But then that can be prejudicial. Okay? And you want to make sure you try to sanitize your court proceedings with anything that can be prejudicial. Okay? And then when she said kangaroo courts, I like, oh Lord, I know this slow motherfucker frequent. We don't use that over here. Like, please. Stay amongst your kind, honey. Stay with your people. People, you got to understand, people come across words and they wear them out. They don't know the meaning of them. They think they know they're going, and they use them. They wear them out at every turn. Kangaroo court. Are you fucking serious? Okay, so yeah, that's what they said. So check this out. I said, girl, this is the problem we have. First of all, there is no such thing as just a defense transcript for a trial. And even if the defense said in court, um, hold on. Y'all know I be getting mad, baby. I be forgetting words and every goddamn thing. I be forgetting. My mind be going so fast. I be forgetting whole phrases. Hold on. So even if they said in court that there weren't any minors, the burden rests with the prosecution. There was evidence submitted that proved their ages. The defense didn't really even challenge their ages, and he was convicted of sex abuse to minors for some counts. And the fact that you said kangaroo court, I know which YouTubers you frequent. You are from the slow crew. Okay. And again, if you want to say that anybody over here is wrong about something or anybody anywhere, show it in black and white. Why should we take your word for it? You motherfuckers have proven not to be the smartest people around. Show me in black and white. If you don't have it in black and white, I'm not saying something that you think and you try to put it. No. Show me in black and white. I'm talking about from a credible, reliable source. Show me. If you can't show me in black and white, don't show me shit. Get your ass on. Then they said they don't have no damn evidence, girl. Bye. You definitely rode the yellow short bus. I'm not going back and forth with your SSA FO. I don't even know no SSA, but I know fuck out of here means. I know what that means, right? How I rode the short bus. You just said defense transcripts. You didn't ride no bus to school because you didn't go. I don't understand. How would a dumb motherfucker like this call me dumb? Just say you don't believe nothing. You don't believe that you don't believe nothing. How can you call me dumb? Huh? I ain't never been called dumb in my life. Till I got to this motherfucker. And I'm getting called by some dummies. Dumb, 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 dumb. And I don't give a fuck who likes it or not. Because you know what? I got proof that you're dumb and slow. I'm not just making this up. What the proof that I'm dumb and slow at? I can tell you to produce your high school transcript or your goddamn diploma from high school. I can get rid of half of you motherfuckers out the conversation right there. So what we talking about? Let's keep going. Free Kells and lock you dummies up. Oh, girl. I said, I know you are slow. They did show evidence, and even testimony is evidence with your slow ass. One question. Did the prosecution or defense win the case? You are a dummy. Don't bring your slow ass back over here. And I said, baby, you are drunk. You are drunk. And then I said, you can't go back and forth with me. You don't even have the education to do so. And then she says, not yet, but you're always high. Goodbye. And then I said, no, then she said, bitch, fuck you and your dry SSA channel. Clearly, you're beat because I voiced my opinion on your corny SSA channel. Dumb. Go find you a man to go back and forth with. Clown. And then she says, you're not educated. You're a fake SSA lawyer. Go kick concrete, BIH. And One thing y'all know about me, I can't stand all of that those kind of abbreviations, all that ghetto hood shit. I can't stand that. Don't come talking to me like that. Get your ass on. I told you I'm just gonna have to be me, because being an edited version or abbreviated version just to be, nice to you motherfuckers, clearly didn't work. So I have to be me. This is me all day. I will get in your ass. We can be cool, or we don't have to be cool. It doesn't matter. You cross the line, you whatever, I'm getting your ass. And you can feel free to get in mine. But make sure you're qualified to. That's the only thing I require. You got to be qualified to get in my ass. Even men got to qualify to get in my ass. Okay. And I said, hi on what? I said, you are Dusty. Why is your dusty ass trolling on my dry ass channel? And I said, Lord have mercy. What does SSA mean? And I said, don't get upset with me, dummy. It ain't my fault. And I said, you are so dumb, but try to understand this, stupid. And I gave them a link, and it opens up and it tells you about testimony. And it pretty much tells you what I've always told you guys, that I always thought that evidence had to be in a form of something tangible or something that you can see or view, whatever. No, dummy. Testimony is evidence. It says testimony is oral or written evidence given by the witness under oath, affidavit, or deposition during a trial or other legal procedures. According to Rule 43 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, testimony taken should be conducted in an open court unless other federal rules apply, like the Federal Rules of Evidence. And I told him, I said, we're going to talk about your dumb ass on my dry ass channel. So I'm going to come back around here. What up, Queen Burrell? What up, Queenie? So, now, they come at me like I wrote the indictment on Arca. I did not write the indictment. And my question is, if you have to convict someone, right, based on the indictment and then jury instructions should coincide. When it doesn't, then it's a problem. Okay? So they take extreme care to make sure that they coincide with one another, because you don't want to wrongfully convict someone, right? So if the indictment for R. Kelly stated is some of the elements that some of the people were under 18, said something about going across lines, enticement for sex or something like that, and in an interim they got exposed to an STD. And he was found guilty on all those charges in New York, and majority of and I think all of the charges related to only him in Chicago. They were alleged minors in both cases. In both cases. So tell me, what are we talking about? When he found guilty, like, what are we talking about? Diddy's case is going to be different because the defense doesn't have a problem with coming up with legal arguments with regards to consent. They can challenge that when it's a minor. Or when is somebody under, well, here's the thing. Well, I'll get to the drugs and alcohol part, but let's talk about minors. When it's a minor, there is no consent. Your legal defense, your legal arguments as a defense against those type of allegations you got very. I can't even think, because that's not my law that I've ever practiced, but I'm just telling you, I can't think of a defense with regards to that when you dealing with alleged minors, because there is no consent. The parents can't consent, but that's why the whole parents thing, whatever, that was dumb. Okay, parents couldn't even take the stand with regards to that, anything like that, because what of the rules. The defense tried to do something with those text messages, but they couldn't because they were bound by the rules of evidence, the same rules of evidence that I just mentioned. But if you don't know anything about the rules, I'm not arguing no more with no dummies. I'm not. I'm not. You don't know. Stop acting like you know. Do you have it in black and white that what I'm saying is incorrect? Because based on what I'm saying, he's convicted. I'm not. I'm only quoting what I studied, what they motherfucking said. That's it. He's convicted. The prosecutors can't claim people are minors, okay, and they not be minors and it not be challenged. If the defense know that they are grown-ups, then they're going to challenge that. Common sense. Only thing they could do is try to change the dates of the alleged activity or incidents that they were saying that they had with R. Kelly, right? That way to make them older. I said that is one thing that the defense was going to try to do before the trial had even started. And that's exactly what he went for. He's tried to say, like, if just say, for instance, if Geronda said something happened in 91, and they said, well, you sure it ain't happened in 92 or 93? That would make her older. He tried that. When it comes to the defense, when it comes to the law, each side knows pretty much where they're going to go based on the evidence and discovery. It's called strategy. That's what he tried. Not making this up. There ain't no damn such thing as a defense transcripts. When you look at the transcript, they have both the prosecutor side on there and the defense side. And whatever is going on, that can be recorded on the record. The fuck is you talking about? Stay from over here. Is Kelly back in court about the Herbert? No, No, I was reading my post I had put on the community wall. And I was just saying I was just getting on, go ahead and getting in front of it, because these people be tripping. I said, listen, as I told you, my analysis about the R. Kelly case and the Diddy case is going to be different due to the fact that, one, there isn't any exposure to an STD, and there isn't any minors. And child. Because listen, when you don't have those two things, especially the minors, you can, the defense has some room to work with. When you got minors and stuff, that's and we got STDs and all of that. Mm-mm. Then they want to argue with me about there wasn't no evidence about no STD. Okay, dummy. Testimony is evidence. Why the fuck you think they have people testify? You think they just come in there and just talk just for they benefit? Testimony is evidence. You ain't got to believe me. Look it up. You depend on Google for everything else. Look it up. Tell me I'm lying. And based on his doctor, based on the fact that the people around him allegedly have herpes, whatever, there was, part in one of the elements that he exposed people to herpes. Like, how everybody got herpes and he don't have them and all this? How everybody have them? The people got there say they have them. People sue them for medication and all of that. You can't just walk up and say, go to court and say, hey, I got herpes. I take herpes medicine, and I want R. Kelly to prove to pay for it. You got to prove that he's the reason why you taking the medicine. Now, where am I? I feel like I'm on a planet. I don't know. And even if no one else went to law school around here, some of this is common sense. You don't need physical evidence for every goddamn thing to be proven in your life. Sometimes it's common sense. If I ever meet somebody that has herpes and I see that everybody that he's been with had herpes, you think I'm going to sleep with that person thinking I'm not going to catch herpes? No, I'm not going to sleep with them at all. This is crazy to me. We're going that. I mean, Michael Jackson is all over the YouTube streets. Like, what? That's annoying. We can never go forward. Just go to the next case. Go to the next case without going back. Here goes some dumbass. Dumb as hell. And it should be embarrassing. I'd be like, who is helping the children with the homework? This is why the children get a late start. They don't have nobody at home to help. They sisters can't help. The brothers can't help. Because they got dumbass mom and daddy. Ugh. Chat. That's just crazy to me. That is the crazy. Just stop. Don't come over here because you're slow. That go back and read the defense transcript. Well, when you provide me a defense transcript, I'll be sure to read it. And just because the defense says it, it doesn't make it true. Just because the prosecutor said it doesn't make it true. But one thing, the prosecutors have to prove their case. So they're going to go forward and introduce the evidence first. And if the defense has something to counter that, then that's when they do their part, either during cross or when they have their case in chief. Like, what are we doing? It's so embarrassing. Like, what are you talking about? I'm gonna go back and read it. So if the defense is right about the girls were minors, then guess what? He wouldn't have gotten convicted of those charges because already something would have been wrong with that indictment. If they weren't minors and wasn't no STD, then that indictment would be invalid. Let me tell Dum Dum that. Let me make sure she knows that. I'm a teacher at heart. This is a dumbass, but we're gonna help her out. She's so slow. Stay from over him. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. I'm coming. I see. Oh my gosh. Oh. So if there was no herpes, like I said, if there was no herpes, there were no minors. Okay, then that would mean that that indictment would be invalid. That would mean that R. Kelly was wrongfully convicted, which means his rights was violated, which means that his attorney would have appealed for that reason. Did she appeal because his rights was violated due to him being wrongfully convicted? Huh? Huh? I just need some help. I just need some help with that. You can't indict somebody and convict them based on an indictment that isn't correct. Now you don't have to believe I'm a lawyer, but don't you believe he hired a bunch of them? Why didn't he appeal for that reason? Hmm. Jean appeal about the parents and all this extra shit. Why didn't she? Then none of them. Nobody did that. Oh, I put on. I'm getting heated, child. These people come and interrupt your life with their dumb ass. It's very easy. Yeah, because they missed what they said. I'm gonna tell you what they said. Hold on, I'm getting heated. I'm just trying to figure out why didn't she appeal for the parents' involvement, for them not being having no minors and no herpes. Why didn't she appeal for those reasons? Why? She ain't mentioned it. Why? Hmm. So get the fuck on. I'm bring your ass back over here saying shit. And here's the thing, right? These slow. Oh my gosh. They say you. Whatever they say. One, I ain't signed up to be your goddamn teacher. That's not what I do for you. But if you come in and you wanna learn something or you wanna teach me something, hey, I'm always ready for that. But don't come and be talking about all that rah rah and that la la and don't have no black and white and then can't answer some common sense questions. Why didn't she appeal? Because of the parents' involvement, the STDs, and the no minors, and not having all this all that rhetoric that y'all like to run out here, and then want to take a shot at my credibility or whatever. You can't shoot at mine because I promise you, on D-Day, it's going to be a massacre. A massacre. What is it? A massacre. Massacre. Yeah. I'm mad as hell. It's going to be a massacre. Don't come for me. How you gonna tell me not to believe me? And I'm one of the only ones that's been right, way more right than wrong. And then you have motherfuckers that ain't got nothing right yet, but don't believe me. No, child Shibuki. Yeah, that nonsense gonna cease. Stay up off my shit. Don't come and asking me saying nothing. I don't mind no questions. That listen, questions. That's how we learn. Because when I have questions, whatever it may be, I go find me a source, a resource, honey. That's what I do. But don't come on names. And right now, I couldn't pull out a transcript from nowhere. Couldn't demonstrate without a transcript that you got a common sense of what? A basic seventh grade curriculum. If you don't get your ass on, like, nope, we ain't doing it. So, let's get to the transcript. All right. Okay. I have it up. Ready? 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 Okay. Now, we behind, but, we'll catch up. Now, I started to start from right from Cassie or whatever. I forgot who took the stand. So then somebody take the stand before her. But I'm trying to do what I can do. But I don't wanna. I tried to find a reader, y'all, but um, I tried to find a reader. That's all I can say. All right. So now this happened in the Robin room. It says, Mr. Agnifilo, one thing on the record, the court's record. I'm happy to do it on the record. I'm going to ask that the victim, number one, when she testifies, be ready in the jury box when the jury comes in. Only as to her, only because of her physical condition. I mean, there are certain things we can't control who is who is 8.5 months pregnant. Must be me about a witness. But I think there is a quality to her walking in front of the jury that I think is easily avoidable. I'm not making an application for any of the other witnesses. The judge says, wait, let me be sure I understand. Mr. Agnifilo says, yes. The judge says, Miss Comey, who is your first witness? Miss Comey says, first witness is Israel Flores. The judge says, that's what I thought. When we get to the third witness, which is Miss Ventura, Miss Comey, correct, Your Honor. The judge says, when we get to our third witness, just for purposes of that witness, Mr. Agnifilo says yes. The judge says you would like her to be already sitting in the witness box. He says yes. The judge says when the jury comes in, he says yes. All right, let me think about that. And Miss Comey says, Your Honor, we would object. If Your Honor is considering it, I would like to be heard on that. I don't think there any basis to treat any witness differently because of a medical condition, most notably pregnancy. I think that would be deeply inappropriate. Mr. Agnifilo says, I can make the application. It doesn't have to be done now. It can be done before she testifies. Anytime good for the court. Judge says, I'll think about it. Ms. Comey makes the point. We wouldn't treat people differently because based on any other sort of medical condition or physical impairment or any other attribute, right? Why would we treat this differently? Mr. Nichols says, because I think there is a prejudicial quality. Pregnancy is beautiful and wonderful. It's also a source of potential sympathy. Judge says they are going to see the witness. Mr. Nichols says 100%. The judge says, aren't they also going to see the witness leaving the witness stand? What are you trying to achieve? Defense says, well, so in past trials, and each trial is different, I've certainly had situations where the jury was excused before the witness either sat down or left the witness stand. And I would make that application for all the witnesses, except I think it takes little bit more time. So I wasn't going to do that in the interest of time. I've always preferred the procedure where the witness is seated, then the jury comes in. I probably had most of my trials with that as the process. The judge says, well, the court does that too when it fosters efficiency. I'm sure that we will actually do that at this trial, but you're making a different application. You're saying we will, in fact, have the witness seated whenever the jury comes in, and there's an objection to that, and it's a fair one. That I don't know that there is any support anywhere in the history of American jurisprudence. You can find that for me. You've got time. I've heard the objection. I tend to agree with it. However, you've gone to this afternoon because this isn't going to happen if it happens today at all. I think you've got time. So if you have any support for that, I'll be happy to take a look at it. The deputy clerk said, Your Honor, can we go off the record? And it's recess and it's an open court. It said, the judge says, Mr. Courtroom Deputy, are we prepared to proceed? Yes, Your Honor. I will check on them right now. Ms. Shapiro says, Your Honor, I'm sorry. Can I just put one thing on the record? Yes. We just want to know to supplement the Batson application, which we understand Your Honor denied. That is in addition to the points Mr. Agnifilo made that two of the black individuals in the government struck. No, 161 and 163. Were they only two black men in the first 28? Judge says, all right. Ms. Coleman says, Your Honor, I don't think that's right. In the first 28? Ms. Shapiro says, in the first 28. Judge says, that's what Mr. Comey says, I don't think that's right. And if I can correct the record, juror 184, who is on the jury, I believe, is a black man. The judge says, well, I think we have the government's response. Ms. Comey says, do you have anything further in response to Ms. Shapiro's submission? Ms. Comey says, Your Honor, I would want the record to also reflect that there were other men who weren't non-white men also seated on the jury. I think I noted that, but I'm given. Hold up on there. Okay. All right. So when it's the prosecutor, I'm going to say prosecutor. When it's the judge, I'm going to say judge or whatever, because um, I think it'll flow a lot better. Okay, so right now, I think y'all remember when the defense, I believe, was objecting to the jurors. They saying that the state, was it the state? Yeah, the state kept jurors off because they were black, something like that. That's when they were talking about the Batson objection or the Batson rule, because they were saying that if I'm not mistaken, they were saying that the state used remember you get preemptory challenges for jurors and you get cause challenges, right? Cause meaning you gave a um, a reason why you struck that juror. But remember, in Fed court, you only get like 6 or 10 or something, right? Each side has a different number. With peremptory challenges, I think it's unlimited, right? So they're saying that the state use a peremptory challenge to strike a juror, and that's is not allowed under Batson. Okay, let's see. All right, so the judge says, "Well, I think we have the government's response," and the prosecutor says, "Do Miss?" Well, no, the judge says, "Miss Coleman, do you have anything further in response to Miss Shapiro's submission?" And the prosecutor said, "Your Honor, I would want the record to also reflect that there were other men who weren't non-black men also seated on the jury. I think I noted that, but given," and the defense said, "I don't think that's correct," but the judge says, "All right, I understand you some supplemented the record. Ms. Comey has responded, and the Batson application continued to be denied. So with that, at this point, Mr. Courtroom Deputy, are we prepared to bring in the jury?" The deputy clerk says, "Yes, Your Honor." The judge says, "All right, let's bring in the jury." And it says, "Please be seated." Deputy clerk says, "Your Honor, I'll confirm that I have the jurors seated in the correct position. Are you juror number 27? Yes. Are you juror number 5? Yes. Are you juror number 25? Yes. Are you juror number 55? Yes. Are you juror number 58? Yes. Are you juror number 75? Yes. Are you juror number 116? Thank you. Are you juror number 160? Yes. Are you juror number 184? Are you juror number 201? Correct. Are you juror number 217? Yes." The deputy clerk says, "Proceeding to the last row. Are you juror number 230? Yes. Are you juror number 234? Yes. Are you juror number 292? That's why we do this. Are you juror number 292? Yes. Great. Thank you. Are you juror number 321? Yes. Are you juror number 330? Yes. Thank you, Your Honor." The judge says, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for bearing with us through the jury selection process. Welcome back to the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. As you were told when you were here for jury selection, I am Arun Serpamanian, and I will be proceeding over the trial in the case of the United States of America versus Sean Combs. Trial will begin shortly with opening statements. We will sit every weekday until trial is over, with the exception of court holidays. Our anticipated schedule had not changed since I last spoke to you. The attorneys and I expect this trial to be over before July 4th. Obviously, it is possible that the trial could go longer, but I don't expect that at all. Every day this week, we'll be here from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. After this week, we will go from 9 to 3 o'clock each day, and we will try to make your trial experience as smooth, as pleasant, and possible." Remember, that's what I thought I heard. It was supposed to go to 9 to 3. Oh, okay. After week 1, okay, so week 2, which is coming up. If any issues come up, please contact the courtroom deputy. A light breakfast will be available before every trial day in the jury room at 8:30, and I encourage you to arrive early so as to not delay the other jurors and the participants in this trial. We will take a shorter than usual break for lunch. I'm anticipating about 30 minutes, but we will have lunch provided for you in the jury room, so you don't need to leave the courthouse and take that additional time. Now, the reason why we will have one shorter break in the middle of the day is so that you can leave earlier most days. That is the point. So that you can have more time to attend the things you need to do in life while we are conducting this trial. Of course, if you need a break during the proceedings for any urgent personal reason, you should let the courtroom deputy know. but I will make every effort to move this trial along promptly and make efficient use of your time. Now, the name and identities of the jurors are known to the court and both parties who will keep your names and identities in confidence in order to protect your privacy. That personal information about you will not be disclosed to the public. This is in no way unusual. It is common practice followed in many cases in the federal courts that is being followed here in this case. The courtroom deputy will now swear in the jury. Is there anyone in the jury who does not swear an oath but affirm? Put your hands down for a minute. Is there anyone who does not take an oath? You can raise your hand again. A jury of 12 jurors and 6 alternates were impaneled and sworn. Okay, I really don't have to read all of that. I want to get to the opening statement, okay? All right, but there is something I want to read. Okay. Well, no, I'm not read that. It's just pretty much saying that, um, statements and arguments and questions by the lawyers are not our evidence, nor are any of my own statements, meaning the judge. Only answers given by the witnesses and documents admitted as exhibits are evidence. Does anybody see that? I just want to make sure y'all see that. Okay? Objections to questions are not evidence, so on and so forth. But it's right there in plain view. Okay? Let me get to the. Yeah, I can skip a lot of this. Okay. And we will start there with the opening um, arguments. Okay, opening statement. Okay. So let me blow my nose real quick. Okay, we're gonna start with the opening. Let me make it bigger. Ooh, that made it smaller. Okay, now I'm gonna lay down, y'all. So this is my old voice, honey. I've been sound 100, baby. I'm laying down. Oh God, we become these a lot of pages. And I started just skip to Cassie, and I said no, because we're gonna lose a lot of context that we didn't even have. So, no. Okay. All right. We will now begin with the opening statement. Government prepare to proceed. Ms. Johnson. Yes, Your Honor. The judge says, all right, you may proceed. Government. This is Sean Combs. To the public, he was Puff Diddy. Diddy, a cultural icon, a businessman, larger than life. But there was another side to him, a side that ran a criminal enterprise. During this trial, you are going to hear about 20 years of the defendant's crimes, but he didn't do it alone. So, right there, you see that they're trying to establish the enterprise. Okay? Because again, they can't just come up, they just can't come straight out and say, okay, let me go over the indictment, and this part of our case proved this part of the indictment. They can't do that. Okay? They have to lay it out in a form of pretty much a story, you know. All right. It says he had an inner circle of bodyguards and high ranking employees who helped him commit crimes and helped him cover them up. Kidnapping, arson, drugs, sex crimes, bribery, and obstruction. These are just some of the crimes that the defendant and his inner circle committed again and again. You are going to hear all about that, all about them during this trial. Now, remember, all of those um, civil lawsuits that I got. I mean, I have so many. It's straight out of state of New York. They're everywhere. Okay, and I got majority of them. And remember, I was reading where that Christina Coram and some of the other people that were sued along with Diddy was trying to get their attorneys was trying to get them off of those civil lawsuits. Well, here the government say that you know he had high-ranking um, people assisting him in the crimes trial. I don't know, honey. Let me keep going. Let's start now with just one night. The defendant was on the hunt for his girlfriend, a woman named Cassie. For years, the defendant physically abused Cassie. He also sexually exploited her, forcing her to have sex with male escorts while he watched and recorded it. But that night, the defendant learned that he had lost control of Cassie. He found out Cassie was seeing another man. Furious, he set out to find Cassie and that other man, but he couldn't do it by himself. So he took his gun and took his bodyguard, one of his most loyal lieutenants, to wake up to to wake up one of those defendant employees in the middle of the night. The defendant yelled, that he was going to kill that man Cassie was with. He demanded that his employee take him to that man's home. The defendant forced the employee out of her apartment and into an SUV. They drove to the house. The defendant and his bodyguard broke in, but no one was there. The defendant didn't give up. He kept looking for Cassie. When he finally found her, he did what he had done countless times before. He beat her brutally, kicking her in the back and flinging her around like a rag doll. All of that violence wasn't enough, though. The defendant had to make sure he had control over Cassie once again. So he threatened her. The defendant told Cassie that if she defied him again, he would publicly release the videos of her having sex with male escorts that he kept as blackmail, souvenirs of the most humiliating nights of her life. This was just one night in the defendant's 2 decades of crime. In one night, he and his lieutenant kidnapped an employee, broke into a man's house, and the defendant beat and blackmailed his girlfriend. And as you know, and as you will learn, this was just the tip of the iceberg. These are not the only crimes the defendant committed. That's not the only time he kidnapped someone, and Cassie is not the only woman he beat or sexually exploited. Ooh. Over 20 years, the defendant, with the help of his trusted inner circle, committed crime after crime. That's why we're here today. That's why this case is about 20 years of crime. Is a lot to cover. So first, I'm going to walk you through what the evidence in this case will show. Then I'll explain a little bit about the charges. And then I will tell you how the government will prove that a defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So what will the evidence show? You'll learn that the defendant was a musician who created an empire. He had a record label, Bad Boy Records, and other businesses that he ran or controlled. Those businesses made the defendant rich, and he used money and resources from those companies to build his reputation and to feed his very desire. To do that, he relied on an inner circle of people closest to him, like his bodyguards, chief of staff, and other high-ranking employees who ran all aspects of his life. Together, the group worked to promote the defendant's power. They carefully cultivated and guarded his reputation, and they worked to get the defendant everything he wanted. He sometimes called himself the king, and he expected to be treated like one. He expected his inner circle to cater to his every desire, including his sexual desires. For years, the defendant used his inner circle and his company's resources to sexually exploit multiple women, including women he forced and manipulated into having sex with male escorts, meaning men the defendant paid to have sex with women while he watched. No matter what, the defendant and his inner circle made sure he got everything he wanted. Many times that involved committing crimes together and then covering up those crimes. Those crimes included violent acts like when the defendant brought his bodyguard and his gun to kidnap the employee I mentioned earlier. But you'll hear about other violence too, like when the defendant's bodyguards kidnapped the same employee another time, forcing her to sit through days of lie detector tests, or when the defendant had a man's car set on fire, or when the defendant dangled a woman over a balcony. You'll see and hear evidence of all of this. The defendant had impossible demands. When his employees failed to meet those demands. The defendant threw things at them, threatened them, hit them, or pressured them into taking drugs. He even sexually assaulted one of them. Oh, damn. I mean, oh Lord, I hope it's female. You'll also hear how the defendant used his employees to get and distribute drugs. They delivered those drugs whenever the defendant asked, including so he could give those same drugs to the women he was forcing to have sex with, male escorts. He transported those women and those escorts across state lines and even out of the country for those sex acts. And he used his inner circle and the vast resources of his business empire to to I'm sorry, I can't see now. I'm looking at help to arrange those trips and make the women available to him. Let me be very clear. Let me be very clear on this next point. This case is not about the celebrity's private sexual preferences. The evidence will show that the sexual conduct at issue in this case was coercive and criminal because the defendant made women have sex when they didn't want to. Okay. So that's good they point that out because he threatened them. He drug he drug let's be oh wait a minute. He drugged them. It says he drugged help. He lied to them and he even used violence to make them do it. Some of these words are incorrect, right? So I'm trying to make sense of it. A lot of this trial will focus on just two of those women. So apparently, victim witness 3 didn't it get up to 5? 3.5 won't be. I don't know. So Cassie, who I talked about earlier, and Jane. Some of the details of what happened to Cassie and Jane may be hard to hear, but this is the evidence that will show happened. The defendant used lies, drugs, threats, and violence to force and coerce first Cassie and later Jane to have sex with him in front of male escorts. The defendant insisted that the sex occur in a very specific, highly orchestrated way. These sexual performances lasted multiple days and they involved multiple escorts. The defendant called these encounters by different names over the years. First, freak-offs, later, wild king nights or hotel nights. Week after week, the defendant directed freak-offs in hotels across the country and sometimes out of the country. At times, the defendant had escorts and the women traveled from out of state. So the defendant's staff sometimes organized flights, cars, and hotels. The defendant's business paid for those expenses. The defendant had particular demands for freak-offs. At his direction, the defendant's staff set up the room in advance with supplies like his preferred lighting, extra lighters, and lubricant. His staff remained on call to refresh anything that the defendant needed, like cash to pay the escorts or drugs for the women and the defendant. Mhm. The hotel room was dark. The defendant instructed Cassie and Jane how to look to dress in lingerie, wear tall platform high heels, and have manicured white nails. The defendant selected drugs for Cassie and Jane to take, usually MDMA, also known as Molly or ecstasy. Sometimes those drugs made Cassie and Jane sick, but they also made the women more uninhibited and sexually aroused. The defendant fed Cassie and Jane drugs throughout the freak-offs so they could stay awake and perform for him for hours and days at a time. Once an escort arrived, the defendant dictated every step of the that followed sexual activity that followed the same pattern. And he expected the women to enjoy themselves, to appear to, while they did it. So they kind of getting in front of, if the jury see the tapes and the women seem as if they are enjoying it, rather than acting like that they don't want to do it. They're pretty much getting in front of that. So the defendant masturbated throughout the freak-offs and often video recorded part of them. Now I want to tell you more about Cassie and about Jane. Cassie was a 19-year-old model and aspiring singer with a hit song when she met the defendant in 2006. The defendant was 17 years older than her and the head of a record label. So right there, somewhere between the indictment and the sentencing guidelines, there must be going to be something that speaks of his him being, a person that is in control of her. When you have special circumstances like that, a defendant can, receive extra time, or it could make those particular charges um, more serious, right? Where the jury, says, okay, yeah, this person was in control, and then the judge can take that into consideration, right? Those are special circumstances or enhancements, right? Sometimes they're called enhancements as well that you may see on the PSI, right? Pre-sentencing report. Okay, it says soon Cassie was signed to a 10-album deal with that label. The defendant pursued Cassie, and within a year they were dating. They stayed together on and off until about 2018. During that time, Cassie tried to work on her music and in modeling and acting, but the defendant made her turn down many opportunities. Instead, he paid for Cassie's cars, her apartment, and some of her day to day expenses. Although Cassie recorded music constantly, the defendant, the head of her record label, had the final say on the music that she released. It was never another album. The defendant started abusing Cassie early on. Initially, Cassie fought back, but time and time again, the defendant hit Cassie in the head, threw her to the ground, and kicked her and dragged her by the hair. In 2009, the defendant threw Cassie to the floor of an SUV and stomped repeatedly on her face. To hide her injuries, the defendant forced Cassie to stay in a hotel for the next week. He refused to let her leave, and he had a staff check on her to make sure she stayed put. The defendant also introduced Cassie to freak-offs early on. Soon the defendant made it Cassie's job to find and book escorts for freak-offs. Freak-offs that were happening as often as once a week for days at a time, meaning that for almost half of every week, Cassie was in a dark hotel room, high and awake for days, performing sex acts that she did not want to do on male escorts. Who was that? Thank you, Purple Purple. Cassie will tell you how she felt like she was choking when the defendant made an escort urinate in her mouth, and how she overdosed at a freak off when she still had an open wound on her face from the defendant's most recent assault. The defendant's physical attacks on Cassie happened at freak-offs too. As you'll see on video during this trial, the defendant hit and kicked Cassie in the hallway of an LA hotel, trying to drag her back to the room where they had been with an escort. We'll talk about that video later. Cassie tried the first freak off because she loved the defendant and wanted to make him happy. After that, she knew it wasn't something she wanted to do. But because of the defendant, it became almost everything she did. Because if Cassie didn't do what the defendant wanted, the consequences were severe. Physically, the defendant beat her ferociously. I'm, I'm sorry, viciously. I'm sorry. I done put the dang on watermark over this stuff and I can't hardly see it. It says exploding over even the tiniest slight and beating her to show who was in charge. He beat her when she didn't answer the phone when he called. He beat her when she left a freak off without his permission. He beat her when he thought she took too long in the bathroom. The defendant taught Cassie that defying him could and often would end in violence. And when she tried to run away, he always found her, often with the help of his inner circle. And Cassie's career and livelihood were also in the defendant's hand, something the defendant made clear to Cassie. He told her that he could destroy her career by releasing the videos that he recorded of her performing sex acts on dozens and dozens of male escorts. So Cassie knew that failing to please the defendant, refusing his demands, had more than just physical consequences. It had the power to run a life. The defendant's control, the defendant's violence, and the defendant's threats. That is how the defendant ensured Cassie could not say no to him. So, time again, when the defendant suggested to Cassie that they have a freak off, she knew she had no choice but to agree and went to work setting one up. She texted the escorts, arranged for them to come to the hotel, and put on the performance the defendant wanted. Her livelihood and her safety depended on keeping him happy. So y'all know what they're doing there, right? The prosecutor is going ahead and getting in front of the defense possible evidence that Cassie enjoyed this. She even set it up. She was a part of it or what have you, right? So they're going ahead and admitting to it, getting it on the record that yeah, she did set this up. Y'all give me 1 minute. Drink. Ooh, this is crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I sure appreciate y'all. Thank you so much, Purple Purple. You're so nice and sweet. I'm tell you, sometimes y'all make sure I get that $100 check every 4, 5, 6 months. They don't cut your check into the you get $100, child. That's crazy. Just put this. I eat this little candy. Mm, okay. Cassie's relationship with the defendant was complicated. You will hear during the trial that both Cassie and the defendant were unfaithful, jealous, and at times angry. But only one of them had power. Only one had control. and that was the defendant. And with that power and with that control, he made Cassie do his bidding in those dark hotel rooms. Mm-hmm. I know. I'm sure this candy cap. Mm. Trying to get this off in a minute. So I don't know how this gonna go, right? Because again there isn't any minors or anything like that. The defense have a lot of leg room to introduce reasonable doubt. That video is damning. Okay. I mean, I know that the prosecutors have already established some of the elements of the crime, but the jurors, they're not attorneys, right? They're just listening and trying to make sense of what they watch. They have to evaluate everyone's credibility, right? They have to evaluate Diddy's credibility, whether or not he gets on the stand or not, right? Because his credibility is coming through by way of his what attorneys. Mm-mm. Okay. You'll learn through. You'll learn though that Cassie was not the only woman that the defendant did this to. This was part of a pattern. Now I want to tell you about Jane. Jane was a single mom who started spending time with the defendant in 2020. The defendant pursued and romanced Jane, who fell in love with him quickly. Jane was not seeing other men, but the defendant was seeing other women at the time. So his relationship with Jane was not at all public. So 2020, I think Cassie left in 2018. So I don't know if Jane is Gina or not. The one that was on Tasha K. We gotta go back and see who it was in 2020, child. I mean, it could be, but I thought Cassie said that he cheated on her with Gina. Mm. For the first few months, their sex life was just the two of them, and Jane was happy. That was until the defendant introduced Jane to freak-offs. One night, when they had already taken drugs and had been having sex for hours, the defendant told Jane about freak-offs. Jane agreed to try one to make the defendant happy. To her surprise, the defendant said he would make it happen immediately. That very same night, he took her to a hotel where a room was already set up and an escort was on the way. Jane was nervous, and the defendant directed her step by step. Jane thought the first freak off was a one time wild night. Jane was wrong. The defendant continued asking Jane to have freak offs and promising that if she did, they would spend quality time together. They would go on dates together. They would go on trips. That was what Jane wanted more than anything, a real relationship. So she agreed. She helped plan freak-offs and reached out to escorts. But even though the defendant promised her quality time and trips, he never delivered. Those were just lies he told her to get more nights in the dark hotel rooms with escorts. Jane will tell you about those nights in detail, how she wanted the escorts to wear condoms, but many times the defendant did not let them. And Jane will tell you how he had her take drugs to stay awake and aroused for days. Jane tried twice to make it through these nights without drugs. When Jane tried to make it through the nights without drugs. Let me read that again. Jane tried twice to make it through these nights without drugs. The first time she broke down and had took ecstasy to finish performing. Must be darn, it's a bunch of typos. Must be meant had to take ecstasy to finish performing for the defendant. The second time, Jane vomited after having sex with one escort. How did the defendant respond? He told her to hurry up and get back into the room where another escort was waiting. Oh my God. Early on, Jane told the defendant that she didn't like freak-offs and she just wanted to be alone with him. She loved him desperately and wanted a real relationship with him. The defendant did not listen. Feeling stuck and sick of the strangers the defendant kept bringing to these hotel rooms, Jane tried to assert herself in small ways. She found two men who performed in pornography, and she invited them to join the freak-off. That way, Jane could at least chose the other man she was forced to be intimate with. Like he did with Cassie, the defendant eventually took steps to control Jane financially. The defendant wanted Jane available to meet with him at a moment's notice and discouraged her from working. Jane's income plummeted. Oh, let me swallow this candy. Y'all, so you know what's on my mind. I mean, was Young Miami doing all of this? Because did she make a joke? Or maybe it wasn't a joke that she liked to be peed on? Mm-hmm. The defendant gave Jane money and later started paying the rent for the house that she lived in with her child. That way, when Jane resisted the freak-offs and told him over and over that she wanted to stop, he had the power to force her back into the hotel rooms. And just as he had with Cassie, the defendant threatened Jane with the videos he recorded of her engaging in sex acts with the escorts. But the lies and the drugs and the threats were not the end of it. Not even a year ago today, Jane had the worst day of her life. The defendant came to Jane's house for an at-home date night. She and the defendant argued about another woman that the defendant had been seeing. Jane was upset and jealous. She had now spent years in hotel rooms and before sex while the defendant took his other girlfriends for dates and trips. Hold on. I gotta see who this Jane is. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me a minute. Let's do a Google search. Cause didn't Young Miami get into it with that Gina girl? Like, hold on. They said Young Miami was from 2021 to 2023. Dana Tran was 2021 to 2023. Miracle Watts was from 2020 to 2021. Joy Chavez was from 2020 to 2022. That's the girl who got the children from Bow Wow. Daphne Joy is from 2020 to 2022. Nicole Oliveira is 2019. So is Laurie Harvey. Jocelyn Chu is 2018 to 2019. Gina Huynh is from 2014 to 2019. So I knew that she was during the time with Cassie. They said this girl started dating him in 2020. Y'all, they wrong as hell. They done took, I'm put up Sean Combs dating history. They done put Jonathan Odie, some other man, Nisha Lowe Jr., Rick Ross, Justin Bieber. This is crazy. Like, stop it. I'm trying to find 2020. They said he dated Amber Rose from 2009 to 2018. Like, what? For even a year. Like, who is this year? Let me get back to it. It ain't telling me. Hold on. Let me get a reliable source. I am clutching my pearls. There's a Sarah Chapman. Well, she back in the day. Hold on, I'm coming back, y'all. Give me a minute. Yeah, my Amazon 2021, honey. I'm coming one more source and I am coming. We just got to know. 2023. Lisa. Not Kim. They're bringing everybody up in their mama. You gonna tell me who? Ain't nothing coming up. I wonder, is it Gina? Is it Gina? And the dates are just off. Let me get back. Twitter, please, and YouTube, please hit that like button. Okay. All right. So let me go back a little bit. It says she had now spent years in a hotel room and forced sex while the defendant took his other girlfriends for dates and trips. Jane hit the defendant and threw things at him. The defendant became enraged, so Jane tried to get away from him and hide. She ran to her room and locked the door. He kicked it open. She ran to her bathroom and locked the door. He kicked it open. She ran to her closet and locked the door. He kicked it open. She ran to the guest bedroom and locked the door. He kicked it open. She tried to run out the front door, but he grabbed her in a chokehold, lifted her off the ground by her neck, and kicked her to the ground. Later that night, they fought again, and just as he had with Cassie, the defendant viciously attacked Jane. He punched her in the face, kicked her while she was curled up in a ball on the ground, dragged her by her hair and arm, and slapped Jane's face so hard she fell over. When all of this was over, the defendant still did not let be. Instead, he told Jane, "You're not going to fuck up my night." The defendant instructed her to put on an outfit and call up an escort for a freak off. He made Jane cover her black eye and bruising, take an ecstasy pill, and perform for the defendant with that escort. Jane followed his instruction, like with Cassie. The defendant's violence had gotten him what he wanted. The defendant's sexual violence did not stop at freak-offs, though. Cassie will tell you about the time when the defendant forced himself on her, having sex with her as she cried and repeatedly told him no. So right there, you see they establishing what I remember what I told you. She can agree as many times as she wants to, but the time she says no, and he pressures her or he forces her, then prosecutor can be, can be seen as establishing one of the elements of the crime, right? It says, and Mia, an employee who the defendant worked to the bone for years, will tell you about the times that the defendant forced himself on her sexually, putting his hands up her dress, unzipping his pants and forcing her to perform oral sex and sneaking into her bed to penetrate her against her will. God darn. Yeah, if she takes the stand, because see now you're really getting into where it's not really questionable because this girl Mia, I wouldn't suppose she is a somebody who became involved with him romantically, right? After all this, during all of this, and if she left her job at right after this, then I mean that's good for the prosecutor. If not, I don't know. It'll be her word against his. Um, As I said before, the defendant had the power and control, endless resources, and a loyal inner circle who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. Almost all this violence, the defendant and his inner circle had to make sure that nothing put the defendant's public image and his power at risk. So, as tirelessly as the defendant's inner circle worked to meet the defendant's every need, they also worked to cover up his crime. Remember the video at the LA hotel of the defendant attacking Cassie during a freak off? You will hear just how far the defendant, his bodyguards, and his chief of staff went to get what they thought was the only copy of that video. The defendant first tried to pay off a hotel security guard with a wad of cash in exchange for his silence. Then the defendant and his chief of staff reached out to a different hotel security guard to broker a deal. In exchange for the video from the hotel, the defendant gave the security guard a brown paper bag full of $100,000 in cash while the defendant's bodyguard and his chief of staff stood by. This is far from the only time that the defendant's inner circle tried to close ranks and do damage control. You'll hear how the inner circle covered up the defendant's brutal beatings by keeping Cassie in hiding for days. You'll hear about the inner circle contacting witnesses of the defendant's abuse to feed them lies, including even after he knew about the investigation in his case. Again and again, the defendant and his inner circle tried to keep the defendant's crimes out of public view, to protect his reputation and to protect his power. That is what the evidence in this case will show. For all of this, the defendant is charged with multiple federal crimes. You'll hear a lot more about the charges at the end of the trial when the judge instructs you on the law and his instructions and his instructions control. Hmm. But for now, there are just a few points I want to highlight so you have context for what you'll hear during this case. First, the defendant is charged with racketeering conspiracy based on his agreement to commit crimes as a part of an enterprise. That is different than what R. Kelly was charged with. R. Kelly was charged with RICO, but he was charged with the substantive RICO, which means that the prosecutors had to prove that he participated in at least two predicate acts, right? Which is also known as a pattern of racketeering. Okay. I expect the judge will tell you that an enterprise is a group of people who work together for a common purpose of engaging in a conduct, a course of conduct over a time. Here you'll learn that the enterprise is the inner circle I talked about, the bodyguards and the higher ranking employees Lord, like chiefs of staff. Some of these people came and went over 20 years, but I expect the evidence will show that the defendant through line, was a through line. He remained at the top running that group and that he always had trusted bodyguards and advisors helping him. Together, they agreed to commit different crimes, including kidnapping and arson, distributing drugs to other people, exploiting employees for labor, and in Mia's case, sex, bribery, and obstruction, sex trafficking, and transporting, people for prostitution. That's all covered by the racketeering conspiracy charge. The defendant is also charged separately for sex trafficking Cassie and Jane through force, fraud, or coercion. Again, the judge's instruction control, but I expect you'll learn that fraud includes a lie about a material fact. Coercion includes threats, and force includes violence. Ooh, 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 they did good laying that out. They did good laying that out, honey. Because remember, I told you, right? They can't just get up there and say, hey, um, this evidence proved this. And this evidence proved this particular element. And this, they can't get up there and say that. They have to lay it out in the story. But in the opening statement, they they have a little leeway. So they are explaining that little I just read. They explain what they equated his behavior, his alleged criminal behavior, to what the elements of the crimes are. Okay, so that was pretty good. They did good. So the defendant is charged with using all three tactics to make Cassie and Jane participate in days-long drug-fueled recorded sexual encounters with male escorts against their will. Finally, he is charged with transporting Cassie, Jane, and a male escort across state lines for these sexual encounters. How will the government prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of these crimes? You will hear from witnesses, including Cassie and Jane, two of the defendant's victims. They will tell you how the defendant tried to control their lives from their homes to their careers, how the defendant used his control over them, how his lies, his drugs, his threats, and his violence to force and coerce them into having sex with male escorts. Cassie and Jane will describe freakouts for you in painstaking detail. They will tell you some of the most personal and painful experiences of their lives. The days they spent awake in hotel rooms, high on drugs, dressed as characters to perform the defendant's fantasy, just as he directed them to do so. You'll also hear from some of the defendant's employees. You'll hear from Mia, who worked as the defendant's personal assistant for years, the employee he sexually assaulted. Mia is just beginning to grapple with the times that the defendant forced himself on her sexually. Mia will tell you how she could not talk about what happened to her until recently, how she wanted to take the secret of what the defendant did to her to the grave. I hope she quit. Like after the first one, but it said time and a few times, so maybe she didn't. Yeah. Says you will hear from the employee who the defendant forced into that SUV with a gun from one of the defendant's chi- chefs and from the other personal assistant. I thought it was chief, but it says chef's job. It says they will tell you that they work punishing hours and days for the defendant, at times without any sleep. They will tell you how the defendant ordered them to buy drugs for him, how they used all the resources at their disposal to make sure the defendant always had everything he desired, how they were expected to keep quiet about what they saw and what they heard in the defendant's home. You'll learn that some of these witnesses and victims, including Cassie, have already received financial settlements from the defendant or have filed lawsuits against the defendant. But these witnesses will tell you that they trade any money from the defendant for not having been abused. You'll also hear from some of the escorts who participated in freak-offs with Cassie and Jane. They will tell you how the defendant directed the sexual activity between the escorts and Cassie and or Jane, down to the details of how they touched each other, the specific sex acts they performed, and all while the defendant filmed it. You'll even hear from an escort who saw the defendant assault Cassie and drag her by her hair during a freak off. Ooh. In addition to these witnesses, you will see documents that prove the defendant's crime. You will see records from hotels, services, and airlines showing the dates and the locations when the escorts and women traveled to meet the defendant for freak-offs. You'll see records of physical damage the defendant in his freak-off calls the hotel rooms where he stayed. You'll see dozens and dozens of text messages about freak-offs, including messages from the defendant to his staff asking for more cash to pay escorts. Messages where the defendant tells Cassie what drugs to take and when before a freak-off, and messages from Jane to the defendant telling him over and over again that she didn't want to do a freak off. And you'll see videos of some of the freak offs. What? The videos the defendant used to blackmail Cassie and to blackmail Jane. Those videos capture just small parts of these days long performances. In them, you can hear the defendant providing direction to Cassie and Jane, and you will see Cassie and Jane do exactly what the defendant tells them to do. You will see them put on a performance, high on ecstasy, where they pretend to enjoy themselves because that's what the defendant said he wanted. You will see for yourself the defendant's violence in its aftermath. You will see a video capturing the defendant brutally beating Cassie during a freak-off at a LA hotel. You will see photos of Cassie and her injuries from the defendant's assault. You will hear from witnesses who saw the defendant assault Cassie or saw injuries he inflicted on her. You will see photos of the damage the defendant did when he kicked in 4 doors of Jane's home. And you will see videos of Jane with bruising still on her face days after the defendant attacked her and forced her to do a freak off not even a year ago. You will see for yourself what the defendant had in his homes in March 2024 when they were searched: guns, the defendant's so-called med bag full of illegal drugs, and freak-off supplies like lubricant, platform high heels. Finally, you will see and hear evidence of how the defendant and his inner circle worked to keep his reputation and his power intact for all these years. You will see the agreement signed by the hotel security guard, barring him from speaking out about the $100,000 that the defendant paid him for that hotel security video. You will hear recordings of phone calls when the defendant called Jane after Cassie had filed a lawsuit. You will hear him. You will hear him try to manipulate Jane into saying she wanted to have a freak off. You will hear him interrupt Jane when she pushes back. You will hear the defendant thinly veiled references to continuing to pay for Jane's home in exchange for her silence, and you will see the text messages the defendant sent to his chief of staff right after talking to Jane to make sure that Jane's rent would still be paid on time. The evidence will come in piece by piece, and it won't always come in chronological order. But by the end of this trial, when you have seen and heard all of the evidence, you will see how it all fits together. You will see how it proves that the defendant led and controlled an enterprise that enabled him and others working for him to commit many crimes. How it proves that he forced and coerced Cassie and Jane into sex with male escorts, including by having them travel to other states and countries so those sex acts could happen. And you will see how all of these crimes and the empire the defendant controlled were designed to fulfill his sexual desires to protect his rep, sorry, to protect, it must be meant to say reputation, but it says to protect his representation and to keep his power. At the end of this trial, we will have the opportunity to speak with you again. But between now and then, I would ask that you do 3 things. First, please first, please pay close attention to the evidence. Second, please follow the judge's instructions on the law. And third, please use and trust your common sense. If you do all of that, you will reach the only verdict that is consistent with the law and the evidence in this case that the defendant, Sean Combs, is guilty. The judge says, all right, who will be presenting the opening statements? Talking to the defense. And Ms. Garrett goes, I am, Your Honor. The judge says, and if you're in the gallery and you have a device, use this opportunity to silence it or it will be taken. Ms. Garrett says, good morning. Okay, let me get it together. Take some water, honey. Take some water. Shut. Ooh. Ooh. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. It's crazy. That's a lot. Hold on, y'all. Child, let me continue to read this. A lot don't care who tells it. Mm, okay. That's one lying ass nigga. Now you talking about I struck him. Child, are you crazy? I'm not a strike nobody. Just dumb. So now this is the defense, right? They're going to start with their opening statement. Let's go say good morning. Sean Combs is a complicated man, but this is not a complicated case. This case is about love, jealousy, infidelity, and money. This case is about voluntary adult choices made by capable adult and consensual relationships. This case is about those real life relationships, and the government is trying to turn those relationships into a racketeering case, a prostitution case, and a sex trafficking case. It would not work. Let's start with the basics. The most important things in this courtroom are you and him. At a time when everything in government can feel so uncertain, one thing has remained the same in our justice system, and that is standing between all of us and a criminal conviction is a jury of our peers. That is you. You will hear the evidence. You will get to the truth. You will see the witnesses and evaluate them one by one. And finally, the story about this case can finally come out. Why do I say that? I say that because this case is not about what you've heard on the news, read in the news, or have seen on social media for the past year and a half. This case is not about what civil attorneys looking for a payday. are trying to make my client out to be. There has been a tremendous amount of noise around this case for the past year, and it is time to cancel that noise and hear and see evidence that will be presented in this courtroom. And it will be crystal clear. The story of Sean Combs is a fascinating one, but it is a human one. We are going to tell you his story over the next 2 months in this courtroom, and you will learn that he is a man who grew up here in New York City, in Harlem, who came from little but built groundbreaking lawful business. You will hear that he is a wealthy individual, but know that the evidence will show that nobody gave him this money. He worked for it, and no one gave him a dime. It will show that he made every single dollar, recreated a culture, and produced music that I believe you will hear will change the generation. And I believe that the evidence is going to show that this ingenuity is what drew people to Mr. Combs. Witnesses will share with you that Mr. Combs is a fascinating person and that people are drawn to him. Yes, he is famous. Yes, he is wealthy. And certainly that's part of it. But he was charismatic and majestic and a larger than life figure. If you had any interest in climbing the social ladder at the time and being involved in the music industry, the apparel industry, spirits industry, attending his legendary parties, you wanted to be around Sean Combs. You also wanted to be around him because of the benefits that came along with being with him. As you listen to the evidence in this case, try to remember why that matters. Try to remember why people stayed around him and why it matters. I expect it will matter to you as a jury because he gave people opportunities and he gave people chances to work at his companies. They believe he had a vision that few others had. And for the most part, I believe the evidence that will show you that they loved him. I don't think that the witnesses will tell you they always liked what he did or how he behaved, but the real time text messages that you will review in this case show that people really loved him and that they believed that by being with Sean Combs, they were part of something special. So by now, you've heard the government say a lot of things about my client. It's time for me to introduce you to him. His name is Sean Combs. You may have heard him by You may have heard him by Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Puffy, Diddy. But standing in this courtroom is a 55-year-old in the same place he was born and raised. He's going by the same name he was born with, Sean Combs. My name is Tina Garagos, and I'm one of the attorneys honored to represent him. The government started their opening statement by telling you this is about a 20-year racketeering influence corrupt organization act enterprise that he committed with his apparent trusted inner circle. The only people in this courtroom who will tell you that they participated in, knew about, or came to an agreement to participate in a racketeering enterprise are the prosecutors. Not one witness will get into this courtroom and will take that witness stand and tell you that they were part of any racketeering, influence, corrupt organization enterprise. And the reason is simple: there was not one. So this is good too, because when I tell you they are playing chess, they are trying to back them into going. Well, let me explain. Right? They are saying that the witnesses that get up on the stand, they're going to testify to just carrying out what will sound like regular workplace duties, right? The same jobs that you would expect to have if you work for a celebrity, right? But remember what the prosecutor said. The prosecutor said those witnesses are going to detail crimes. They're talking about people getting guns and going to find people and all this, whatever. You know, well, getting a gun and going to find somebody, that's not really a crime. But once you find someone and you got a gun on you or whatever, that becomes a crime, right? So, um, you know, this is, I mean, right now they're kind of evening out, right? Let's let me keep reading. You heard what the government tried to say the enterprise is, that he used his lawful business to feed his every desire, including sexual ones. This case is about Sean Combs' private personal sex life, which has nothing to do with his lawful business. The government has no place here in this man's private bedroom. The government can say over and over and again that this is not about his private sex life, but the evidence will show you that it is. The people who will come into this courtroom and testify are the people who would know about a racketeering enterprise. And those people will all say they knew nothing about any enterprise. That is because these hard-working individuals were either doing their jobs as personal assistants or as top executives running his successful businesses. These are individuals educated at places from Harvard to Howard University. Okay, see what I'm talking about? You see what I said? All right, now this is my first time reading this, right? So I'm just letting you know. The prosecution will bring in those same employees and others into this courtroom, and they have them testify that Sean Combs has a temper, and when he drank or when he did the wrong drugs, he would get violent. My client is not proud of that, but it is one of the many things we're going to own and fully admit right up front at this trial. Sean Combs has a bad temper. He sometimes gets so angry or so jealous that he is out of control. You will see evidence and you will hear some testimony that does not portray my client in a good light. You will hear some text messages, some voice notes, and some witnesses' testimony that make you think, I don't think this guy is a great guy. I don't like how he just lied to his girlfriends. I don't like the things he just said in that text message. I want to tell you now, there may be at one point, there may be multiple points at this trial where you think, I think he is a jerk. And I think he is kind of mean. But he is not charged with being mean. He is not charged with being a jerk. He is charged with running a racketeering enterprise. And though there was violence that you're going to hear about, you already have, that violence is not a part of any RICO. That violence is not connected to sex trafficking. And that violence is not prostitution. There was a name in criminal law for the violence that we will hear about and we will see at this trial. It is called domestic violence. Boom, I told y'all a long time ago that they were going to frame this up as just simply domestic violence. He did a lot of stuff while high on drugs. You know, it changed his attitude. They may even connect it to him becoming kind of freaky deaky. You understand? I mean, that's how I would go. Become a freaky deaky on the ecstasy. Hell, I don't know. And you know what? I'm kind of confused about. I wonder why men, now I know they like to see the pornos, right? So do they like it, enjoy it even better when the porno is going on in front of them and stuff? I guess so. I guess that's the point. But I'm not a man, so I don't know how to process all of that. Ooh, honey, child, it's crazy. Um, says it is called assault. Domestic violence is a very serious matter. I want to say that now. It is a bad, illegal problem, and it is something that the law addresses. We will take full responsibility that there was domestic violence in this case. Domestic violence is not sex trafficking. I want to say it again. Domestic violence is not sex trafficking. Had he been charged with domestic violence, he had he been charged with assault, we would not be here right now. We would not be sitting through an 8-week trial. However, he's been charged with different crimes: sex trafficking, prostitution, racketeering. These are federal crimes with their different statutes. They charge different elements, and he is simply not guilty of those crimes. One of the central things of my statements to you would be personal accountability and personal responsibility. As the trial goes on, we will see that with each witness, we are going to take that on ourselves. We will not shy away from the things Mr. Combs did, but we will not deny his personal responsibility or own the things that he did not do. We are telling you right now that he is physical, that he is a drug user, and I'm telling you he had a bit of a different sex life. For example, you have not heard any evidence in this case, but the prosecutors already told you about lubricant, and you may know of his love of baby oil. Oh, oh, child. Is that a federal crime? No. You will hear that he got IVs after ingesting drugs. Is that a federal crime? No. He'll be responsible. He will be accountable for the things that he did. But we will fight for his freedom throughout the next 8 weeks for what he did not do. And he cannot be the only person in this case who accepts personal responsibility and accountability for his actions. The alleged victims who will testify in this case are capable, strong adult women. I told you that they were going to say that these women were culpable. Then I tell you, when the people are over 18, now you can argue consent. Now you can talk about others being culpable, even the what? The victim witnesses, right? Because they're over 18. That's the only thing I was trying to explain on my walk. Child, they getting their feelings, child. Did I write this too? Did I write this? No, I ain't write this. My first time reading it. They were all getting something each of them wanted from him and from being in a romantic relationship with him. And these adult, capable, strong women will have to take on the same level of personal responsibility for their lives that he is going to take on for his. When any person, so right there, they're planting in the jury's mind that listen, these women gonna blame it all on him. They're not gonna really take responsibility or be accountable for their act, right? Because they already know that the government, in order to meet their elements, right? They got to blame pretty much everything on Sean. And what the women did, they got to say that it was because he controlled them. It was at what? His demand. Okay? So they're saying that's what you're gonna hear. Do that sound fair? Yeah. So right here, they are establishing a lot of stuff. They're trying to strike on the court of reasoning, responsibility. Okay. Or should I say reasoning and responsibility? So no one get confused. Okay. When a person in life make an adult choice, that is a free choice. A free choice has pros, it has cons. You may think there are better choices. You may think there are worse choices, but that does not eliminate the personal responsibility behind those choices. Ooh, and each of the women you will hear, they all had the personal responsibility and the freedom to make the choices that they made. You see, it's different when there are no minors involved. It's different. The fight is different. It's pretty much the same case, just different because there's no minors. There's no STD. Says you will hear from these women. You will hear from these women. You will meet them. They will sit in that witness chair for a few feet away, and you will evaluate them for yourselves. You will see that they are capable. You will see that they are strong. You will see that they made free choices every single day for years. As you are listening to the evidence and you listen to them testify, I want you to ask yourself, what are all the ways that this individual had the ability to make that choice? Ask yourself, what are they getting from being with Sean Combs? They are not with him because they are stuck or because they are without a choice. The government will try to show you that Sean Combs is the only one getting something from each of these alleged victims who testify in this case. But with each of these individuals, ask yourself, what is this person getting? Ooh, they are with him, or they are with him, or they are working for him because they are getting something they want from being with him. Now, with each person, that something may be different, and it usually is, but with each person, they are all getting something. So, as you listen to the evidence, watch closely to the role that jealousy plays in this case. We have talked to you both of us already about jealousy and how it is pervasive and present in every single relationship. But I want to also let you know that it drives a lot of the choices that are alleged that the alleged victims make here. Combs is one of those men that I'll submit to you. We all know the evidence is going to show that he is somebody who never married, but he needed to always have a woman around. He is a many woman man. He has 7 children by 4 different women. And he is the kind of guy who was always in relationships. In fact, he was always in multiple relationships. But critically, he was not always honest about that fact. And you'll find that even when women knew he was in multiple relationships, this would drive a primal jealousy in people. It would drive a lot of the choices you're going to see in this case. You're also going to see that Sean Combs is extremely jealous. You might think that it's hypocritical. You might not like it, but you are going to see that he is also extremely jealous. So, as you're listening to the evidence and you're evaluating the testimony, ask yourself, what is causing that fight? The answer is, without exception, jealousy of drugs. 1 minute. The things we are going to take responsibility for, it is typically because of jealousy or drug use. I told you he's going to blame it on drugs. Well, I ain't tell you about jealousy, but I tell you about the drugs. The role of jealousy here is critical and it is pervasive. The evidence will show you that over the course of the 20 years we will examine in this courtroom, We will see the same women over and over. They remained in multi-year relationships with him. And I believe that you'll pretty much know about every relationship he's had over the past 20 years. Again, that's whether this is an employee or a girlfriend. You will pretty much know about every girlfriend he has had. You will see that these women are strong, capable, and they were in love with him. You'll see that breaches of trust, infidelity, and jealousy are what drove the domestic violence you will hear about. You'll see that alcohol and drugs played a major role in his temper. The evidence is going to show you a very flawed individual, but it will not show you a racketeer, a sex trafficker, or somebody transporting for prostitution. So, as we've said, you're going to hear from two women, Cass and Jane. This case is in large part about his sexual relationships with these two women. And you're going to hear that they went to private hotel rooms to engage in what I expect some witnesses at this point this case to call the swingers lifestyle, which is essentially just a fancier terminology for the threesomes by adults. Sometimes Combs partook in the sex with his girlfriend and the male escort. Huh? Hold on now. Straighten that out now. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Now, y'all know I've been waiting to answer some questions, right? Did you have sex with the male? And do you have the herpes? Hold on now. And other times he watched while the male escort was having sex with his girlfriend. Wait a minute. She should have straightened that out. She should have said, you would see that Sean Combs had sex with his girlfriend, and and sometimes when his girlfriend was having sex with the male, when he did not have sex with the male, you need to make sure you need to clear that out because it's on the streets. It's on the streets. Okay? Lord have mercy. Let me start a little back a little bit. Sometimes Combs partook in the sex with his girlfriend and the male escort, and other times he watched while the male escort was having sex with his girlfriend. You heard the government call these freak offs. I expect you will hear that. I expect you also hear them call parties and entertainment. They got to put a male escort on him, and we got to find out if he had sex with our Lord Jesus with Sean Combs, baby. I got to have all these transcripts. You will hear from both Cassie and Jane about these nights. They will testify about their relationship, and you will hear things that should never be heard in a federal courtroom. I think you've heard that already. You've heard things that make you feel uncomfortable at first, that he liked to watch. You might hear about his kinky sex or preferences for sex that may make you uncomfortable and may not be what you like to do in your bedroom. But you are not here to judge him for his sexual preferences. You're not here to judge him for all purposes. You are not here to evaluate whether the government can prove beyond a reasonable doubt what they actually charge him with. Hold on, y'all. Now, when they usually say sexual preferences, that usually mean with the same sex. Oh! And ain't nothing wrong with it, whatever, but I'm just saying, it's Sean Combs. Lord. Okay. It says they cannot. You've also heard that in his relationships with both Cassie and Jane, he brought them things. Yes, like every relationship, they got things from their boyfriend. Here, a wealthy rapper paid for their housing, paid for Cassie's car, and he even gave them money. These are nice houses that he paid for. It was a nice car that Cassie drove, and they were nice vacations on private planes because he is a wealthy individual. I thank God, dude ain't never took nothing back from me. Hallelujah. Oh, but that old Jamaican Chad took my darn duckhead shoes back. They weren't number. Girl, them duckhead shoes were $30. Red. Mm, 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 mm. Anyway, these are vacations that they took together as couples. As I've said, like every relationship, there was jealousy and there was flaws. But as you evaluate the evidence in this case, remember that he is not charged with being a flawed individual or having flawed relationships. They did not stay with him over and over again because of forced fraud or coercion. The evidence in this case will show you that over and over again, day after day. These women fought to be in a relationship, fought to do what they wanted to do in a consensual adult relationship. This case started with Cassie, so I think it's best for me to start there. I expect you will hear from her this week. She will sit in this witness box and she will tell you about her 11-year relationship with Sean Combs. You heard that they met when she was an up and coming artist. What you didn't hear is that she had a boyfriend at the time, and he was in a very public relationship with the mother of 4 of his children, named Kim Porter. Child, they paint her as a hoe. After the two fell in love and started dating, she broke up with her producer boyfriend. But Combs, for his part, did not break up with Kim. He remained in a public relationship with her, and that is something that caused extreme jealousy with Cassie. He continued that relationship with Kim Porter until her tragic, untimely death from pneumonia in 2018. This is important because as you look at the evidence and as you evaluate Cassie and Combs' relationship, you'll see that their fights, their cheating, their jealousy, it typically surrounded his cheating or it surrounded hers. This is something that plagued their relationship until the very last day. The evidence will show you that he was extremely jealous of Cassie's actual or perceived infidelities, and she was uncontrollably jealous of his. This led to a toxic relationship between two people that I expect the evidence will show deeply, deeply loved each other. Perhaps they did not always show love to one another the way you would with your partner, but they were in a relationship and she was not being trafficked. Okay, let me look at where I am. 54. Let me see how much of the opening I have. Oh Lord, honey, that's a lot. So yeah, let me stop somewhere. Okay, so I am on page 54. Hold on. You know your girl can usually knock it out. I got to get up in the morning and let me edit my line. Honey. I'm tired. I gotta lighten that watermark so I can see a little better off the bigger screen. Okay. Here we are, honey. I will pick it up tomorrow. Hopefully. I'm picking it tomorrow. That's 3 hours. I know, I can go longer. But I'm tired. That I don't tell you that morning shift. Oh my gosh. I like to get my day started like after 12. Okay. And then work into the night overnight. I used to like when I would come up get off, right? When I was getting off at 11, if I had some work to do on the other jobs, whatever, I would go. Because see, back then, right, I didn't have to be up with the students, right? I can load everything and they as whatever. And if they need something, they can just hit me on Teams, right? Uh-uh. I'd be up watching them plugged in. This, that, and the third. Like this is crazy, right? Hopefully, I stick to you. You have to be ambitious sometimes. Step out and just try something, right? Just try it. And if it fails, it fails. But you just gotta try, and hopefully, and you stick with it, right? Y'all, get y'all business plans together and everything, and stick with something with it, and just nourish it until it eventually come together. I encourage everybody to do that, even if it's something in addition, because when is you work for yourself or you understand what I'm saying, you don't usually have insurance and so on and so forth, right? So sometimes you might have to make that a separate, like a little side job or whatever. But you work on your baby as much as possible and you try to get people to that can help out, when you need them to, whatever. So hopefully stuff works out. And they really gonna talk about me because I'm gonna be on here all day and all night because I'm gonna have the time. Yeah, but you know what? I sure do appreciate y'all. So I'll get back on it tomorrow. Like I said, hey, mm, I'm excited for the next 10 or more. And you never are too old to do something. As long as your mind is on par with those youngins or what have you, your health, your body, your mind, all of that is in sync. Child, you're never too old to do nothing, child. You get inspired by older people older than you, running marathons and all this type of stuff. Man, child, it was this lady named Miss Cynthia, and she died from cancer. Cancer came back. Yeah, she was. quite a bit older than I was, but she kind of put you in the mind. She looks like if Karen Huger and Tina Knowles had a child, it would be um what the name? I just said her name. What her name is? Miss. I got to find what her name is. I'll tell you. What her name is? Didn't I just say it? But anyway, she was a spry older lady, right? She would be hooked up. She come to work, she'd be hooked up, honey. And like when you get kind of up there, you don't marry no more. You just have a boyfriend for like 15 to 20 years, something crazy like that, right? She would always be dressed up, just And baby, I never get, because remember I tell you all the time how I got tricked, because I don't know miles and all that type of stuff. I don't know about all that. Okay, I they conned me into doing this race, this walk, 5 miles. Huh. It was from the landing to the stadium and then back again. And then once you get up there, they gave you all this food and stuff like that. You see, um, it's a long story, but anyway. So I had them taught me, and for any type of benefit, it was a walk for counselor, but for any type of benefit, but I'm gonna participate. Normally, there ain't gonna be no walks like that and all that. I ain't finna do all of that. I ain't running, jogging, doing none of that. Okay, but child, they conned me into it. To my besties, conned me into it. Y'all, Miss Cynthia, that's her name, Miss Cynthia. Y'all, I came in almost dead last, and people would keep me company walking. Miss Cynthia was before me, because I would pass Miss Cynthia like she was on the way coming back, and I was on the way going. And Miss Cynthia was out there jogging and stuff. She would, honey, come over there and be trying to get into our little youthful conversations and stuff like that. It was so funny, but yeah, cancer came back and claimed her life. Yeah, so yeah. But anyway, she was a good lady. I liked her. She was real. She was at makeup every day. I trying to tell you, them older, y'all got them older aunties, and because like my aunties, like after their husbands had died or they were divorced or whatever, they had boyfriends for the longest 20, 30 years. I'm like, what? 20, 30 years. Like, what is going on? But and all they do is come over and take company like that, drop off a little money and watch TV. Baby, that's the life, baby. That's the life. Just come on over and watch a little TV. Okay? I ain't got to jump up and down on it, because baby, we're gonna hurt something. That's what I'm talking about. That's the life. Y'all got them aunties and uncles that's doing that, just coming over and taking company. That's what they call it, taking company. I got company. Let me call you back later. I got company. But yeah, child, they got on all that makeup and they smell good and stuff and walking around, child. I'm like, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's cute to me. But anyway, y'all, gotta go. Hey, make sure you do something good for yourself and someone else. Make today a good day, tomorrow a better day. And I'm out of here in reasonable time. So are you. Bye.